Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. Coming up on today's show, as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu pushes for a Nigeria seat at the G20 table, what could this spell for the economy? From attracting global investments to shaping Africa's voice on the world stage. Journalist Tolu Ogunlesi will be joining me from Paris to assess the tangible benefits and the road ahead. We'll also be exploring the impact of Nigeria's growing ties with India and the Global South agenda. And Ecobank celebrated a major milestone at the London Stock Exchange on Wednesday with the successful issuance of its $400 million Euro bond. We'll unpack what this means for international investors and Ecobank's growth strategy with Jeremy Awori, the Group CEO of the bank. Then later, I'll be looking back at some of the biggest business news stories of the week. But first, tributes have continued to pour in for Lord John Prescott, the former Deputy Prime Minister of the UK Labour Party, who passed away Wednesday, aged 86, after a battle with Alzheimer's disease. Leaders from across the political spectrum have hailed Prescott as a champion of social justice, a pioneer of environmental policy, and an iconic figure in British politics. Former Prime Minister Sir Tony Blair, under whom Prescott served from 1997 to 2007, described him as an indomitable force in politics, whose work on the Kyoto Protocol and fight for social justice inspired countless people. Former US Vice President Al Gore praised Prescott's global contributions to climate action. John's vision and dedication to a sustainable future leave an enduring legacy. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer called Prescott a true giant of the Labour movement, adding that his fight for equality, workers' rights and environmental protection embodies the best of our party's values. Prescott's family announced his peaceful passing, surrounded by loved ones, and thanked the public for honouring his life and legacy, urging reflection on his lifelong dedication to fairness and protecting the planet. Elsewhere, the UK has intensified its military support for Ukraine, with reports confirming that Volodymyr Zelensky has used UK-supplied Storm Shadow missiles to strike targets inside Russian territory. The development marks a major escalation in the conflict, signalling a significant shift in the UK's approach to its military assistance. However, concerns are growing over the UK's limited stockpiles, which could hinder future supplies of these long-range missiles. British Challenger 2 tanks have also been deployed in Ukraine, with some reportedly destroyed in combat. This highlights the high stakes of the conflict and the scale of the UK's commitment, which includes £12.5 billion in aid since 2022, £7.6 billion of which has been allocated for military assistance. Despite this robust support for Ukraine, the Labour government has announced £500 million worth of cuts to its defence budget over 5 years. The decision has drawn sharp criticism amid rising tensions with Russia and NATO's push for increased defence spending. Conservative lawmakers warn that the cuts risk undermining the UK's military readiness at a time when a strong defence is critical. Well, for more on this, I was earlier joined in the studio by our Downing Street correspondent, Simon Pusey. Simon, it's been quite a busy week. There's been lots of negative economic data coming out of the UK. Of course, COP is wrapping up this week. G20 wrapped up earlier in the week. And then we reached a very grim milestone, 1,000 days of the war in Ukraine. Quite worrying news about British army equipment, Storm missiles being used in the war. Potentially, this could exacerbate the situation. But then, on the other hand, there are defence spending cuts in the UK as well. Can you talk to me about what's been happening?
Yeah, so these missiles have been used for the first time. This comes a day or two after the US and Joe Biden said that Storm missiles could be used. These are long-range missiles that are Western supplied to Ukraine. And Ukraine have been calling them, President Volodymyr Zelensky have been calling them for months, because they can see ammunition and arms supplies in Russia that they can reach, but they're not allowed to because it's on Russian soil.
Right.
But this, these ammunitions are being used against them to attack their country and kill their people. So I think it's been they've been hamstrung for quite a while. And so the UK are following the US's lead, and I'm sure Europe will as well, and Germany.
Why was there so much concern?
Well, I think it's because President Vladimir Putin has been saying that this would, start a nuclear war, and he often comes out, and the Russians do often come out with this kind of very high-level language that's going to massively exacerbate the war, and it never really seems to materialize, but it has been hampering the Ukrainians.
Yeah.
And when you hear things of nuclear war and Vladimir Putin is a law unto himself, there's far from a democracy really in Russia, then people could be worried as to whether that could be a possibility, but I don't think we can see that at the moment.
Right.
And it's really hard, isn't it? I think with the election of Donald Trump and him saying he's going to stop the war in 24 hours, the US and allies are trying to give Ukraine as much of a chance as they can to claw back some territory or not to lose any.
As it goes on, Russia is likely to
in
succeed.
2 months' time, Donald Trump will be in, and then he'll be pushing for a deal, and then maybe it is where the border currently lies, this is what we're going to carve up.
Yeah.
So I think they're just trying to help the Ukraine ahead of that, because I don't think they're going to get any more sort of money or arms from the US when Donald Trump's in.
Yeah.
And Russia are claiming they've shot down 2 UK-made missiles. It's hard to know whether that's true. Yeah. But at least, I think for people who are supporting Ukraine, at least they're getting what they've been asking for many, many months.
Absolutely. More support, but it comes at a cost, doesn't it?
It does come at a cost.
We've got the cost of living crisis, but spending more money in Ukraine.
Well, I mean, we're spending less money, as you just said, in terms of cuts to the military. I guess the point of having a military is so that we can help our allies when they're attacked by foreign forces.
And defend the borders.
And defend their borders. We've been training Ukrainian troops since 2015. So this is, I guess, just along the same lines as what we've already been doing. These cuts, though, Labour are sort of dressing this as being, these are tough decisions that should have been made by the last government. We're taking out of action these warships and
old
missiles that are not fit for purpose. They were made decades ago. And obviously the Conservatives are saying, you're just saying that, these are cuts, like you are cutting our military. And I guess, the Labour government need to make cuts, don't they? They've come in with a so-called 20 billion black hole. They're spending a lot in the public sector, so they need to find some cuts. But it doesn't look good at the moment, does it? If you're cutting defence spending, they say they're going to increase levels of defence spending, not to what the Conservatives want, but they are cutting certain parts of it.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you.
The G20 summit has concluded in Rio de Janeiro, drawing attention to Nigeria's efforts to secure membership and expand its influence on global platforms. During his time in Latin America, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has actively lobbied for the nation's inclusion, emphasising its potential to amplify Africa's voice in global decision-making while unlocking significant economic opportunities. Also, Nigeria focused on attracting foreign investments and mobilising capital for critical infrastructure projects. While these outcomes may take time to materialise, they do hold the potential to deliver improved infrastructure, economic growth and job creation in the coming years. The President's participation in Rio followed the successful visit last weekend of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Abuja, marking a milestone in bilateral relations. Agreements were signed in customs, geospatial mapping and cultural exchanges. Well, for more on this, I'm now being joined by journalist Tolu Ogunlesi. He joins me from Paris. Tolu Ogunlesi, it's an absolute pleasure having you on Channel's Business Global. I was just saying off camera that we don't get to see you enough on telly. Of course, we read all of your tweets, but we don't get to see you. So it's an absolute pleasure that you've taken time out to speak with me. Before we get into the meat, which of course is G20 and Modi's pretty successful visit, I want to talk about President Tinubu, the man, in terms of his character. Is it fair to say that he's performed quite well over the past couple of weeks? Because, of course, we know he's not the best orator. I don't think anyone in the villa will be too mad at me for saying that. And there had been, at times, questions about his health. But to be honest with you, looking at kind of the warm reception he received across the board in Rio, and then, of course, the kind of natural friendliness between him and Modi, I would say he is almost appearing as a statesman-like figure on the world stage. Would you agree with that? I want your assessment of how he's been.
Yeah, I think it's been a good couple of weeks. There was Saudi, of course, before. There was Saudi where it was an opportunity for Nigeria to kind of like say, look, global matters, global matters affect us, and we want to have a say in what's happening in the Middle East. And of course, the Indian visit, the visit of the Indian Prime Minister, I think that was really good. A big plus for Nigeria, actually. Seeing Prime Minister Modi, quite excited and enthused about visiting.
And Indians, let's be honest. It's like Nollywood and Bollywood met on X, and, there was a love fest. It did feel genuine, didn't it?
Long overdue also. It's been 17 years since an Indian Prime Minister visited Nigeria. So that's, a big deal. And then, of course, the G20.
Which we're going to go into. Let's pause there, and I'll ask about G20. The big thing, of course, is that we're advocating for inclusion. Yeah. Good, we understand the reasons, but some are saying, look, when it comes to UN Security Council, when it comes to G20, these institutions are archaic. What are you doing? Is it late, or does it actually have validity and it makes sense?
Well, there's actually no better time than now to actually make that argument and that push. And of course, the context to this is that there is the whole clamor for a complete overhaul of the global governance and financial systems. Yeah. So governance, Security Council, the financial system, the way, debt management, debt servicing, the reforms of the multilateral development banks, all of that stuff. And of course, they're intertwined. So this, of course, is an excellent time to make that push. And Nigeria's ambitions to join the G20, I think, fits very well into that context.
Okay. Another topic discussed during discussions in Rio de Janeiro was, of course, about, fostering more foreign direct investment. The only thing is we've heard that time and time again now, Tolu. I think most Nigerians are sick of hearing that, because we get all of these pledges, but we're not seeing the tangible outcomes. What are the tangible outcomes? You've walked in the corridors of power for many years across many administrations. Are you thinking that perhaps we could actually bring back some goodies from Brazil, real goodies, not just the beautiful pictures, which of course the media team do so well? We actually want to see result. Will there be any?
Well, yeah, so I understand the, citizens want to see, look, you go to Saudi, you go to India, or you go to the US, to the UNGA, what's in it for us? Obviously, it does take time. Investments are not sort of things you snap a finger to get. But I, as you said, I've worked in government before. I've seen that it can sometimes take years between discussing FDI and starting to see the benefits or the tangibles of it. And I saw that again and again, so for example, if you talk about like the Siemens power deal in Nigeria, the first conversations about this were in 2018 or thereabout. But it took, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, because these things take time. There are discussions, and I think I understand it's genuinely hard for citizens to sort of like understand why these things have to take time. Obviously, maybe there are things we can do to make them faster, but these things take time. But I'm quite optimistic. So, for example, with sort of like in the energy sector, for example, you're starting to see a shift. Nigeria is.
Do we want to see a shift, or do we want to see light? I think they want to see light.
Well, so with energy, so with oil and gas investment, for example, and the reforms that you are seeing, gas, fiscal incentives, and all that stuff. I think it just calls for a bit of patience. But I think that those goodies, those things that are pledged, a good number of them will happen.
Always a pleasure speaking with you, Tolu Ogunlesi, who, of course, is a journalist. He wears several other hats. Thank you so much for taking your time out today.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up on Channel's Business Global, Ecobank celebrated a major milestone at the London Stock Exchange on Wednesday with the successful issuance of its $400 million Eurobond. We'll unpack what this means for international investors and the bank's growth strategy with Jeremy Awori, Group CEO of Ecobank, and Kuramo Capital Management, under the leadership of Chairman and CEO Wale Adeosun, received a top honour at the 2024 Private Equity Africa Awards held in London on Tuesday evening, recognising his pivotal role in driving investment and economic growth across the continent. Channel's Business Global was there and we'll be sharing the highlights. All of this after the break. Do stay with us. Welcome back to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, from our studios here in London. In a moment, I'll be sharing an interview I conducted with Jeremy Awori, Group CEO of Ecobank. But until then, here's a breakdown of some of the biggest business news stories of the week. Netflix's first live boxing event featuring Jake Paul and Mike Tyson drew a staggering 60 million households worldwide, with peak concurrent streams reaching 65 million. This event not only marked a significant milestone for Netflix's venture into live sports broadcasting, but also highlighted the global appeal of big personalities. The fight card also included a much-watched bout between Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor, potentially setting a record for viewership in women's professional sports. Spirit Airlines, known for its low-cost flights, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the US. The airline has struggled with over $2.5 billion in losses since 2020, exacerbated by the travel downturn due to the global health crisis and a failed merger with JetBlue. While operations continue, this move signals a strategic restructuring to manage debt and potentially reposition the airline in a competitive market. The bankruptcy is indicative of broader challenges in the aviation industry, where several airlines globally are facing similar financial pressures. OpenAI has announced the launch of a new initiative aimed at providing free AI training to teachers across the world. This program, designed to integrate AI tools into educational environments, includes modules on understanding AI, ethical considerations, and practical applications in classroom settings. The training seeks to equip educators with the skills necessary to use artificial intelligence in enhancing student learning experiences, covering subjects from language arts to STEM. And now to my next story. Ecobank celebrated its continued commitment to growth and international presence by ringing the bell at the London Stock Exchange on Wednesday morning. This symbolic act marks a significant milestone in the Pan-African Bank's journey, highlighting its expansion and the strengthening of its financial services abroad. Ecobank's market cap has seen a notable increase over the past year, reflecting investor confidence in its strategy to leverage technology and expand its service offerings, particularly in mobile banking and cross-border transactions.
Yeah, so for us, this is a celebration of the issuance of our 5-year senior unsecured note. And it's the first note that was issued since 2021. So we were excited as Ecobank to come back to the market to show that there's actually interest in debt, corporate debt across Africa, because obviously we've experienced challenging macroeconomic environments. So the confidence they had in Ecobank and Africa is something I think we should celebrate. And that includes Nigeria, as you mentioned. But, as a business that's in 35 African countries, we are representing them, and this is an opportunity to invest in those businesses and grow those businesses and economies as we do so. Our very purpose is around financial integration and financial inclusion. So it's interwoven and is core to everything we do. All our products and services are really around how do we drive financial inclusion. We've got products for all the different communities, whether it's a gender agenda through our Elevate program, whether it's supporting farmers in agriculture, whether it's just helping people get accounts and enter into the banking system. And then we also want to support Africa continental free trade. And that is important. And we have a very progressive and progressed sustainability agenda around green finance, climate finance, as one of the Green Climate Fund certified banks on the continent. So we're driving that. We're trying to support generation of energy, green energy. So all of these come together with COP, with the global environment, and we're excited about the future.
What is the visibility this morning at the London Stock Exchange likely to do for Ecobank and your vision?
I mean, firstly, London as a financial center, always stands out. It's always special. And the LSE is is special and is respected. So for us, really, I think it's a celebration, and it's a public celebration of not just Ecobank and what we've been able to do, but I think also Africa and the opportunity. And I think that's what's more important. We've got huge opportunities in so many sectors. And I think sometimes when macroeconomic conditions, are a little bit challenging in some parts of the world, we've seen geopolitical factors, this can sometimes be overlooked. So when we think about green energy, when we think about the potential that Africa has, when we think about our land bank, an ability to contribute towards food security, when we think about green minerals and their contribution towards the green economy, you name it, there's a lot of opportunity, and that's all underpinned by a young, dynamic, tech-savvy population. So for us, London is an exciting opportunity and platform to really showcase Africa and to showcase Ecobank's growth, transformation and returns strategy, which really wants to show that growth, show that transformation, and show that shareholders can get strong returns in Africa.
Wale Adeosun, Chairman and CEO of Karamo Capital Management, has been named Limited Partner Person of the Year Africa at the 2024 Private Equity Africa Awards. The recognition, announced during the awards ceremony held on Tuesday night at the Royal Lancaster London Hotel, highlights Adeosun's significant contributions to investments in Africa and his role in fostering economic development across the continent.
Wale Adeosun. Thank you, Henry, and let me thank Gail and the organizers of this event. Please give Gail a real round of applause for what she's been doing for the industry in the last obviously, I'm accepting this on behalf of the entire Karamo team, Vegas, Nairobi, and Congo. And I couldn't be here without all of you helping me as a big old Karamo family. I'm excited about this industry. I'm excited about the impact and the transformation we have helped in terms of the ecosystem overall. And obviously, I have to thank my family. And when I introduced Gail to my wife earlier today, she's like, behind every great man is a great woman. And so I love my wife and
Can you come across a little bit, please? Lovely, thank you. Okay, well, that's lovely.
The LP Person of the Year award means a lot to me and to Karamo. I think it's a testament of all the work we have been doing at Karamo Capital, where we've been catalyzing over $3.5 billion to the continent to help grow the ecosystem. And so on behalf of my partners, the Karamo team and Karamo family, I've accepted that award. I'm very humbled and honored to have received the LP of the Year award. No, I think the growth of private equity in Africa has come a long ways. When we started, there were just very few firms on the continent. We've increased the number of firms significantly over the last few years. And what's particularly exciting now is the GLI initiative across the continent, where we're trying to increase the number of women-led first-time funds. And we've done 2 cohorts now of almost 40 first-time women fund managers. We think that has significant impact in helping capture the opportunity of entrepreneurs that are led by women, businesses led by women. And so we're excited about the growth of private equity in Africa. We think there's more to come, and I think we'll see a whole lot of impact from the work that these women are going to be doing on the continent. I'm excited about that award that Karamo received as well for the investments we have made in Transcentury, which is a remarkable company and transformational company in Kenya. It's a company that marked the advance of indigenous Kenyans into the investment world. And so we're glad that we've taken that on and we've helped that. And the business is turning around very well for us right now. In terms of Moremi, the award obviously is to recognize the effort on the Gender Lens initiative, where we've created the Moremi Fund of funds, and we have this new model of structure for increasing the number of first-time women fund managers, what you call the ABC model. And so we have the Moremi Accelerator, we have the Moremi Bridge facility, and then we have the Moremi Fund of Funds. So that's another reason why we got the award, and we're very excited about it, and we're thankful and humbled about it.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for you today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.